Hello, hello, hello. Happy New Year, everybody. And welcome to my podcast. This is According to Miss T. And I'm just coming to give you guys the tea. It has been a long time since my last episode. And I really wanted to try to record this prior to everybody getting here in the house and in my space. But anyway, what y'all been up to? What's going on? How you feeling? How is things going? Anyway, this is a little more casual than my usual setup, primarily because I am redoing my space and my office. And so this is what you're going to get today. So, on the last episode, can't remember exactly where I left you guys at, but I'm pretty sure I was talking about that phase of coming of age, those daunting teenage years. And so, let's get into it. After I got through my somewhat crazy childhood, a lot of good times, some trying times, some trouble, heartache, pain, all of that good stuff. Again, my mom moved to Southeast Washington, D.C. Coincidentally, that is also where I met my husband. I met my husband probably around the age of like 13 or something. At that time, he was 16. So obviously it was a no-go. But anyway, he and his sister and I actually were friends and attended school together and all of that good stuff. But anyway, let's go through the teenage years. Again, I moved around there, let's say 1988-ish. My mom had my youngest sister around this time. She was, she was born during that time. And it was the three of us, my middle sister and my youngest sister. And we moved from, we stayed in Landover for about a year. And then we moved to Southeast Washington. I met some of my lifelong friends there who became like my sisters. And we are still friends to this day. And we, just like anybody else, we've had our ups and downs. We've had moments where we didn't speak for stretched periods of time. All of that stuff. As a matter of fact, I know I'm rambling. Last year, we all got together for the first time in a long time. And it felt so good. This is actually how my podcast came to be, because we were talking about starting one together. Now, at some point, I do plan on having them all come on a podcast and sit down and converse with me, because we have a lot of the same traumas and things that we dealt with collectively and individually, and some hurts that we want to go through and discuss from our individual lives, collectively, some stuff that we need to address as sister friends, and some stuff that we just never had the platform or the opportunity to share and express. So that is definitely going to happen sometime this year. But anyways, during my teen years, I moved around there, and it was an interesting experience, because even though it was not the best neighborhood as I look back now, it was kind of lit at the same time. I met a whole bunch of cool people. Um, it was some little gangster stuff that you really didn't realize was gangster stuff because you were living in it. I remember one instance. I was probably about 15, and I was in the car with one of my friends, and she had a I don't know, like a Ford Explorer or something like that. And we were getting ready to hang out like we always did. And she was driving her truck. And we going towards MLK Avenue. And the police jump out, guns drawn, and tell us to basically put our hands up and all of that. And I was petrified. We all was. And once we rolled the windows down, we realized they were looking for somebody else who had committed a robbery or something in the neighborhood. And we were in a similar truck. And yeah, I was so petrified by that experience. I was shaken. By the grace of God, they let us go. That was just one of the instances that I experienced during that time. And I also attended Big Bad Blue. It was called Big Bad Blue for a reason, guys. So much stuff used to happen at that school. I was there during the era where it was normal for them to discover bodies in the grass. That's before they redid the building and all of that stuff. And it was like a lot of field and grassy area surrounding it. And they would find bodies and all kinds of stuff over there. And because it was just the norm for me, it was the norm because I did not know anything else. Let me tell you guys some crazy stories that I experienced living around there. I remember, and let's start with, I developed very early. And so I was a kid and I was shaped like an adult very early. I was very chest heavy, and I oftentimes, and my personality, oftentimes people assumed I was a lot older. But anyway, I remember this one time, my girls and I were hanging on the avenue, because that was our spot, MLK Avenue, if you're not familiar. And at that time, St. Elizabeth Hospital was still there, right? Just stay with me. And I met this guy. I don't know if he was Caucasian or biracial, but he kind of looked a little bit like John B. type stuff. But anyway, at that time we had house phones, right? So he gave me his number. I gave him mine. Long story short, guys, he said he was over there because one of his family members was a patient at St. Elizabeth, right? And so I thought nothing of it, because I had a family member who was over there for a different reason when they had like treatment facilities and all that over there. So whatever, it really didn't dawn on me. Do y'all know this man was a patient who had escaped? And thank God for common sense, because he came to see me one time, but I never told him exactly where I lived, right? I met him at one of my friends who lived in the neighborhood, not at their house, but closer to where they live. And this man kept trying to get me to like go hang with him in like downstairs in the building, and kept saying, I just want to talk to you for a minute. And I'm like maybe 15, 16. And he's just like trying to give me a ring and all of this stuff. Y'all, he was trying to set me up. Come to find out, this man was a patient and somehow got off the campus. If my mother listening to this, stuff I ain't never told her about. But God kept me. And I remember telling him I was going to be right back. And I went like around the corner somewhere else. And I'll say shortly after that, we found out this man was a patient at St. Elizabeth. He was trying to get me. Thank God I was able to get out of that situation. It has happened. I had so many different situations that came up. Sometimes just being gullible, other times just being stupid, trying to be grown. There was another time that my cousin and I had met these guys, and we went to hang out with them. And at that time, we thought Virginia was like, that was like going down south, like it was far because the transportation was so limited at that time in the 90s and stuff. But I remember us going to see this guy. He lived in like Alexandria or Arlington. He had like a high-rise apartment. Apartment was decked out. You know what I'm saying? And upon some further investigation, I found out he was a bit older than what he said. I think, like, again, I'm gonna say he was about early 20s, and again, I was probably about 15-ish. And so when we went over there, and once I found that out, it's time for us to get ready to go. This dude is way too old. We need to go. And I'm not gonna sit here and act like as if I wasn't a little fast. However, I wasn't that fast. And he was trying to get the goodies. Two things that prevented that. One was, sir, I don't know you. Two was, my cycle started. Ain't gonna happen. So I remember we missed our curfew, my cousin and I. And I wasn't trying, my mom was already ready to commit murder, and so I wasn't going home. I decided to go to my grandmother's house because that was my safe haven. I called my grandmother, let her know I was okay, and the guy had paid for us to catch a cab, but I went to my grandmother's house. Honey, do you know that when I got to my grandmother's house, my aunt was waiting for me and her daughter. She had one of her friends come around there in a van and met us before we can get in the house. And so she ready to take us back to Southeast so I can face my mom. But she like going off on her daughter, like going off. I ain't gonna even use the words that she used, but she calling her all kinds of stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I ain't smirking. I'm kind of like hiding because I like hear her going off, and I'm just trying to figure out how I can get out of there, right? Y'all, she thought I was laughing as she was disciplining my cousin. She took I'll never forget this. He took like an ashtray and threw that thing at me, and that thing scuffed past my face. Needless to say, we were scared straight, and that incident ain't gonna happen again. If I was gonna go do something, I definitely was going to go take her daughter, because, yeah, no, it was something. It was a lesson learned. Y'all, it was so many different things. It was so many, now looking back, so many creeps that looking back, they was just perverse and really trying it, whether I looked older or not. These people knew that we was kids. I can't think of this man's name, but he used to be a maintenance worker in this neighborhood that we lived in Southeast. And this man used to offer to buy me stuff. I mean, it don't seem old now, but to me, as a kid that was under 18, I'm going to say this man was maybe in his early 30s. But he would really try to provoke me, offering to buy stuff, or like, we still kids. But like, ice cream truck, you guys want anything? But really trying to convince me, and I don't know if you ever tried this with any of my friends, to whatever. I was green, but I wasn't that green, because at that time, 30-something was an old man to me. Now, I didn't tell my mom or my dad, because the man probably would have been unalived, okay? But this is just experiences that I faced growing up, but it was the norm. I'm not saying it's right. And a lot of the awareness that this generation has, we didn't have because it was the norm. And it was almost like an expectation. Um, but it wasn't always just that kind of chaos. Again, I love to sing, I love to dance. And so I took that same energy when I moved from my old neighborhood of 21st Street to um, Southeast. And I made my new friends and sister friends. I took that same energy. We still having rehearsals. We thought we was the new next in vogue. But on the flip side, I used to dance really hard. I still know the moves to this day. So we're doing BBD. Um, that was my thing. Toni Braxton, you couldn't tell. The first time I cut my hair was because of Toni Braxton. When she first came out with that haircut, one day I think I had just turned 18, and just a friend, I had to go. I went and got my hair cut. I was out Hyattsville at my grandmother's house, and I went and I cut my hair. I needed to have that same haircut. And one of my closest friends, who kind of resembled her at the same time, cut her hair in the same way. Oh my gosh, you couldn't tell us nothing with those sideburns. And that cut, it was it. That was it. Now, I will say the highlight of that time in my life is I met a couple things happened. Let me go back a little ways. I had a crush on this older guy, and long story short, I lost my virginity to him. I'll never forget it. But he was older than I was, and I had a child like crush on someone who was in his teens, but he was in his late teens, and he kind of took advantage of it. You know, he was a handsome guy, very popular in the neighborhood, and yeah. So that's okay. That's either here nor there. Nothing came out of that, except for I got my tail whipped because when it happened, I thought that if my mom looked at me, she could tell that I was no longer pure. And so I stayed out all night because I was petrified to go home. Long story short, the police and stuff was called because they were looking for me. They had went to my friend's house. They had went to everybody's house looking for me. And I didn't go home. I hung out with him for a part of it. And then when I finally went home, y'all, my grandmother was there. My aunts were there. And one of my aunts was just like, told my mom to like check my underwear and all of that stuff. And even with all of that, you could not get me to say, yes, this is what happened. But let's just say my mom got them hands, and I experienced it on that day. I remember trying to run to my dad for his protection and him looking at me like, you on your own. Because he was always the one who looked out for me to make sure that me and my mom didn't butt heads. And this time, he said, "No, sis, you're going to have to pay the piper." And I remember my mom tried to like hit me with like a broom because I was like ducking and dodging. And I grabbed the broom. I'm taller than her by this point. I grabbed the broom like, you're not about to hit me with this. I remember my mom kind of doing like this. Pop! Hit me right here. I'll never forget that. And she had on a cluster ring similar to this. And that thing cut me right here. Yeah, I'm getting over the flu, guys. Excuse me. Excuse me. But yeah, bought me right in my face. I was just so surprised. And yeah. But anyway, the highlight of my time in that neighborhood, outside of all of my friends that I've made, the sisterhoods, the bonus aunts and all cousins, all of that stuff, I met my first love. So this is how it happened, right? one day, I think I was about 16, and my girlfriend and I, my girlfriend slash cousin, saw this particular person that I'll just call Bill. When he first came to our rental office to move in, and he was just my type at that time. Like, he was like light skin and good hair and all of that good stuff. Very attractive. And I had a serious crush on this man. And every day when I got from school, I think I was in 11th grade, I believe. I used to go to the avenue because I guess he was like getting off work or whatever it is, what he was doing. And I wanted to just go because I would run into him every day at the same time when I would leave school. And I was talking to this other boy, but he was like a bugaboo, okay? A bugaboo, okay? Let's call him BJ. But anyway, so I would run into him. So one day I had got sick at school, and I was disappointed because that meant I wasn't going to run in and smile at this boy that I was seeing all the time, because now I'm leaving school early and he gonna be still at work or whatever, and I ain't gonna run into him. So I was a little bit disappointed. And lo and behold, I'm on my way home, and I look, he on his way home too, y'all. I was walking ahead of him, and I looked back, and I kept looking back, and I kept looking back, making eye contact, until finally he struck up a conversation and asked me if I had a boyfriend, all of that good stuff, blah, 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 blah. I said no, I didn't have a boyfriend. I was talking to somebody who I was trying to get rid of, but I digress. So anyway, we started talking and stuff, and then one day he said, do you have a friend? My sister, cousin, girlfriend, whatever you want to call her. And I went to his house, and because he said, do you have a friend? Because my friend is coming over, and he wants to know if you have a friend to come along with, or whatever. He had been talking for probably, I don't know, a few weeks or whatever. I said, sure, right? So I brought her with me. And y'all, as we're leaving out to go to the friend's car, because I think we were going to the mall or something, Iverson Mall, I don't know. The friend is BJ, the dude that I have been ducking and trying to get rid of. That's his best friend, y'all. So when he sees me, he instantly catches the attitude and is just like, yeah, no, we're not about to do this. And leaves, right? So my potential boyfriend is sitting there like, what's going on? And I'm like, I used to talk to him, but we were never a couple, but that's just how the thing went, right? So now he's just like, yeah, he told me that he was talking to somebody around here, but long story short, I knew him as BJ, but his name was, let's say, Barry, and he went by his nickname, but I called him by his first name, the guy that I was like interested in. So we just never put the connection together because they were so different, and it just never dawned on either of us. So long story short, I ain't gonna get into all of the deets of how everything went. He became my boyfriend, y'all. I really thought I was grown. That was my first love. And I remember one day I didn't come in the house, and at that time I think my mom was working 2 jobs, and she used to tell me I had to be in at a certain time, and I'm like, I kept missing curfew. She changed the locks and all of that stuff to the point that I would try to go through the window. So she put the glass etagere in front of the window so that if I came in, I was going to break it. She told my sister that if she let me in, make sure she left out with me. Yeah, because I was still doing well in school, but I had to see him at all costs. Period. And next thing I know, one day, again, she locked the door, And my dad wasn't there to let me in. Let's just call it what it is. So I ended up falling asleep at my new boyfriend house, right? And so the next day he comes in and he's like washing clothes or whatever, right? And he runs into my mom at the laundromat. And she tells him, he comes in the house and he says to me, go get your stuff. I said, what stuff are you talking about? What stuff? What are you talking about? And he says, from your mom's house. What? Go get your clothes and all of that stuff from your mom's house. Why would I do that? Well, she told me that since I think that I can do a better job of taking care of you, she was washing her hands with you in the whole situation and you needed to go, so go get your things. Y'all, my mother has told me that so many times. You think you grown? I'm washing my hands with you. I knew she said it, and I knew it. So I waited because I really wasn't ready to face my mother. I waited till I knew she was at work and when nobody gonna be in the house, and I like called my sister to see who was home, and that's what I did. I went and packed all my stuff, and I moved out. I moved in with my boyfriend, and we was playing house for a few months. Yeah, it was cool until it wasn't. That situation with his friend came up again, and some stuff came out that he didn't like, and we had a big falling out. And at that time, I used to have like really bad allergies. Short version is, my parents thought that I was trying to kill myself because so much had happened with him, and I had taken some allergy pills that were 12-hour allergy pills. I took double what the dose is supposed to be or something. I mixed up my allergy pills. I had two different prescriptions, and one was 12 hours and one was every 4 hours, but I mixed them up.